Hey guys, Nathan here from Morris Method. Now within this video, we're going to be going over 5 things that I think a non-runner should do to get them to become a runner. If that's your goal in 2023, if that's your goal, if you think you're a non-runner and you want to start running, well then these are 5 things that I think you should be doing to get yourself there. So welcome back to another Morris Method video. Like I said, my name's Nathan and I'm a fitness and health coach who likes to help people lose weight and likes to help people get into endurance training, whether that's running, trail running, hiking, mountain bike riding, or even maybe an adventure race in there somewhere as well. So if that's you, don't forget to hit like and subscribe on this video. If you find it useful, let me know. If you have any questions, just put them down in the comment section. Otherwise, let's dive into today's video. And now my point number 1 is never underestimate the power of walking. So you want to be a runner and you think that you're not a runner. My first recommendation is going to be never underestimate walking. If the goal is running, you want to make sure that your body has an ability to deal with as much impact stress as you can, and the place that you need to start with is walking. So there are a lot of times when I have clients who are non-runners who have initially a goal of weight loss and then may transition into starting to run more. A lot of their program actually starts out with power walking or even just general walking or focusing on something like a daily step goal. Now, why I think that's so important is it builds the most important thing, which is not only your aerobic conditioning, but it allows your body to build a bit of base volume in your lower limbs, okay? So running can be really quite hard on your body, and if you're anyone that's actually given it a go before, it can feel really exhausting and it can kind of spit you out before you even get really the love for it. Heard of like runner's high beforehand? Well, that really only happens when you get to a certain point in your running performance. And for someone who's not a runner, if you feel like you can't walk 6 days or 7 days out of the week for a good 60 minutes stint without getting fatigue, without getting soreness, that would be a great place to start. If you want to be a runner, but you're a non-runner, or you see yourself as a non-runner, you want to make sure that you're extremely efficient at power walking before you would leap into that, or at least power walking would want to be a part of your new running program. That's my point number 1. Now, my second piece is you're going to want to place volume over your intensity of your training. That is quite important. And this is a flaw that I used to make a lot of times because I was just like you, a non-runner. I was a guy that was too overweight. I was someone who would always end up with Achilles and calf issues, and it would always have me spit back out of running. So this is a recommendation that comes not only through experience, but now coaching hundreds of people to now get into running. And that would be you want to put your volume of your training as a large focus instead of your intensity, okay? So what I mean by that is if you look at over a 7-day period or a 14-day period, how frequently you are running is more important than how hard you are running. So if you're training right now and your aim is to try and, like we said, get from a non-runner position to a runner position, try and focus on doing it more regularly. So when you are jogging or when you are running and you are training, try and think in the back of your head is, could you do this tomorrow? Because if the answer is no, because you're pushing yourself so hard, you're gonna find, a lot of the time you're gonna find yourself either injured or burnt out after about 8 weeks, and you get to that point and you go, you know what, running's just not for me, and you park that to the side, right? And I did that for many, many years, and I always just jumped back on the push bike. So if you have a goal of running and you feel like you're a non-runner, definitely making sure that you place your volume as your focus in lieu of your intensity of your training. Okay, so that point's number 2 down. Number 3 is weekly resistance training. So you've got to think about, if you're a non-runner, you think about how many years you haven't been running for, and then think about how many years you have been running for, right? So if you're a non-runner, you've probably had, maybe you've dabbled every now and then, right? But you've probably definitely had more years where you haven't been running than when you actually have been running. So you can't necessarily just expect your body to go from 0 to hero. So to go from no running to then running on a running full program that's based around specifically just running drills, cadence work, speed work, aerobic work, you name it, right? What I would focus on is a good resistance training program to accompany the running program, okay? Now these can work really well together, but they can also then sort of hinder each other. So you've got to be really careful with how you kind of go about your resistance training. But that would be something that I would definitely be adding into my weekly program is resistance training, okay? Now it could be all over your whole body resistance training program, but obviously we're going to be talking about lower body, core work specifically to then enhance either your running or just to make sure you don't get spit out the other end, which is what running can really do to a lot of people. So if you want to make sure that you've got longevity within your running, ensuring that you are doing weekly resistance training is really, really quite important. Now this leads me into point number 4, which is a little bit like point number 3 in resistance training, is that either a weekly or definitely fortnightly, a mobility style of training needs to be implemented into your training regime. So what I mean by mobility, because I'm not necessarily just talking about static stretching, which is, you do your training session and you spend say 5 or 10 minutes doing some static stretching at the end. What I mean by mobility training is actually allowing you to stretch the muscle, get the full length, but then get used to activating on top of that at that length of range of motion. And that's a real hard thing to do. It's actually quite painful. And you know what, you're usually gonna find that you're not gonna wanna do a lot of it, because I know I don't wanna do a lot of it, but I know that it really helps my running and allows me to make sure that I'm staying mobile. But I know that when my body goes to that range of motion, I also have the strength at that range of motion. That's really quite important. So that would be my number 4, that I would be making sure, if you're not a runner, but you want to start running, making sure that you do some weekly, if not probably just fortnightly, mobility training into your training plan. This gets me to point number 5, and this is more of a mental thing that I think you should be adding into your, who knows, to-do list, or maybe mental thing to think about every single day. And that is, it's gonna take a fair bit of time, and you need to be okay with that. Go back to the other point that I suggested before, which is you've probably spent more years not running than actually running, especially if you're a non-runner. Then you've got to be okay with it taking time. Because when it comes to the body will not adapt overnight. The body will not just, make all these adaptations quickly, within 4 weeks. You're going to see some results, but a lot of that's actually just you getting better at it. That's your skill getting better. A physical adaptation will usually take anywhere between 6 to 12 weeks, depending on the person, depending on how, what your current state of play is. Point number 5 is you should start giving yourself a bit of a break if you feel like it's not for you. You've got to allow a fair bit of time, okay? And that's where I see a lot of people fail with their running programs. And this is where I used to fail, is that I used to just try and put too much into my program, right? So I would urge on the sense of caution when it comes to running, when you're a non-runner, when you're someone who hasn't done this, either very regularly or you're coming back to running, is you want to be taking your time. It will take time for your body to adapt, and you need to make sure that you're allowing for that time so you don't get in your own head like, is this working? Is it doing something? It's going to take a fair amount of weeks, if not months, for you to really see progress, but you should see progress nonetheless. So if you're not seeing progress, there's something wrong, but we want to make sure that the progress can be sustained and maintained, rather than running like it can do, just spit you out the other end of the training program and you end up with some injury and you just find yourself at the physio and the chiropractor all the time, right? Which running can do, and if you are pushing the limits, it will and can do that. So my recommendation is it's okay for it to take time. If you're a non-runner and you want to be a runner, you've got to allow for the time, okay? So that would be my point number 5. I'm hoping these 5 things have helped you. If you are motivated to get into running, like the best thing about running is all you need is a pair of shoes, and you're off your trot and away you go, right? That's the amazing thing about running, is that we can really all do it. But whether we stay with it or not, I think has got a lot to do with how you attack your training plan, and how you train is really important. So these are 5 things that I wish I knew a long time ago. you know what, probably I wouldn't listen to all of them if I was in your position. You want to choose a couple that sort of gets you going, that you think that you need to maybe change with your running plan, and hopefully that helps you along the way. If you have any questions, guys, just let me know. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. If you have a question, let me know. Put it down in the comments, and I hope to see you here next time. Thanks, guys. Bye.